what is life all about? They never ask those without clout, so no doubt sometimes to be heard I must shout. If you ask me, it's not about wasting time in school and classes designed to make us dumber, not smarter. And if we fail these classes, instead of ensuring we learned more, teachers would just tell us, work harder. Because we were made to believe that the future of our lives depends on scores in a never-ending series of tests. You may say you've heard it all before, but that's because I haven't told you what comes next. Have you ever noticed in school dissent is suppressed, and that any opinion that doesn't meet the school board's pre-approved list of thoughts is marked as non-valid content? When I was in his story class and instructed to learn about 58,000 US soldiers dead during the Vietnam War, I wondered why we never learned about 3 million Vietnamese that died. Until it hit me, I can't learn about anything that doesn't forward the agenda of nationalism and American pride. And what about the agenda of school tests that rarely measure intellect and instead mostly just an ability to remember more than all the rest, that sit obediently doped up on Ritalin in front of their desks? Never mind that if I got an A 3 months from now, I will have forgotten all the answers, and if given the same test I get an F. Because this brainwashing technique perfected through a useless, outdated exam system is what they say is best. Even though tests unnecessarily create elevated levels of stress and fears of failure that ensure we actually learn less, and that's why I say school, while often boring and tame, really contributes little more to your brain than being locked in a room or spring break in Cancun. We believe in the exam and grade system just because someone in a position of authority taught us to work harder in school, as if doing so actually made us smarter. So we did as they ordered. And we listened to the words coming out of their mouths because our parents said, "You must listen to those that are older or we will scold you." But really, we should listen to those bold and courageous enough to break free of the system, whether older or younger. Because those are the intelligent ones that can feed our hunger to pursue our dreams, even when we trip and fall and commit numerous blunders. The intelligent ones know that learning is not about avoiding failures, playing it safe, aiming for perfection, and getting that 4.5 GPA just to say, hey, I got into a top university. Because in uni, unfortunately, the brainwashing techniques are more elevated, sophisticated, crafted and tooled, and even more on point than the ones we endured in high school. Are you really saying that the plan of academics is to diminish our critical thought? And that the academic system is a business just like everything else already paid for and bought? With a specific plan just for you and you and you and you and you that is all the same, courtesy of those that wish not to educate, liberate, or illuminate, but only to pontificate and play mind games? Remember, it's all about that A, so we can be herded like grade A cattle to partake in that mental academic battle that takes its toll on our collective souls, imprinting our minds with obedience while they make our wallets lighter, and eventually even taking our souls for those among us that don't have the soul of a warrior or a fighter. There's a reason why we call academics institutional, and why we call people that have spent time in the penitentiary institutionalized. I don't want to digress, but if you really want to understand why academics makes a mind less, we need to understand the similarities between classroom stress and prison cells, no less. Prison ain't meant to rehabilitate, but only to obliterate a man's will and to release a lesser man to the outside after he served his time, unable to cope with freedom because inside the cell, prison guards have locked down his mind. So when the day arrives, the body is free, the mind remains trapped behind, a captive in that cell, unable to climb out because the mind and the body never worked as one to get the job done. And inside classroom walls, these same mental battles are being played out, with rows set up in military precision, designed to beat out of existence any disobedient mindset in kids that wish to speak out. Get good grades is just code for conform and obey, to mold intelligent, creative young kids into mental slaves. Do you know how many brilliant minds would be actualized if school actually educated? But brilliance is not what they want, because brilliance shines a light on the plight of minds that are being faded. Whatever the cost, students must be institutionalized to abandon all individual thought and divergent ideas so clones can be produced that think exactly the same and would be lost without the comfort of their iPhones and social media pings and tones. Don't twist the message, because education is vital, but in academics, it's a crapshoot whether you receive it or you don't. In some majors you will, in many you won't. So I ask again, what is life all about? How will you make it in life without an education, they say, but school is only one system of many and not the only way, even if they tell us there is only one. There are plenty of other paths that enlighten the mind much more and do so with more fun. Today, classroom instruction revolves around repetitive, boring tasks like rote memorization that never challenge intellect, more similar to brainwashing, and as such does not deserve our respect. Education should never revolve around memorization, but only the application of knowledge to improve our lives and to make our lives better. But in classrooms, that's not what they're providing. Ask any student attending mathematics classes today, and you'll quickly see I ain't lying. Ask students if they know how to apply what they're learning to improve their lives, and I bet to manifest just one student that answers yes, you're going to have to look for a very long time. But ask the top students of any math class to recite their multiplication tables, and those robotic students are easy to find, because these type of students help create nations in which we ably learn our place in their system. But what about those that deviate, break free, and don't stay in their lanes? That's when they double down on diversionary tactics like making us interested in only professions, no matter their harm to humanity, banking, that focus solely on making it rain. And if that message fails, they'll bring on motivational speakers to stress the importance of conforming to the system and working harder to build a better life, when in reality this false message increases spiritual poverty and intellectual strife. Sometimes dropping out of school is the best path to a good education. If we all had the courage to do this, we wouldn't live lives devoid of joy and elation. We wouldn't be left wondering when we've achieved the exact fate they say everyone wants: big house, beautiful wife, why most of us are still left searching for the meaning of life. But wait, life gets even better after we graduate from obedience school, universities, to the next phase of our pre-mapped life path where we can further our mental psychoses and disease. Living in nations with the greatest wealth but the highest rates of problems of mental health, they tell us, just sit back and enjoy the ride. Well, they hide from us, there's one with growing rates of hate, depression, and suicide. Is this what life is really about? To happily interview for a chance to work in a box in the sky and hand over control of our lives from 7 to 5 as if we have nothing to lose when the exact opposite is true, and if we refuse, we're told we won't make it and die? But if we pause for just one day of our lives and thought this through, 100% of us would realize that this life we don't want is one we've incredibly never questioned from birth, and that we're all living someone else's life according to someone else's model of predetermined worth. We talk about free will and our plan to reach for the red pill, but when push comes to shove, we select conformity to pre-established systems over freedom, stick our heads in the sand and obey their great plan. Not just in business and banking, but in medicine, music, and law, it's like the systems they built for us require us great harm or to harm others to get ahead and make decisions like we inside that horror movie Saw. And as our divine light is turned to darkness inside this box in which we spend most of our days, we extend this craze at the end of the day by isolating ourselves in social media worlds more virtual than real. 1,500 Facebook friends to exchange meaningless words with, but zero we really feel. To this fake artificial life, someone please explain to me why everyone continues to swipe right. Is this what we identify as a life worth living, or is it just mindless conformity to systems that are really broken down and torn, which we all seem afraid to criticize because we've been falsely led to believe that to break free of it, we need the skills of someone like Jason Bourne. To defeat the system, we only need return to the element of society capable of giving us meaning, our connection to God and other human beings. The real problem is that we're all trying to fit into a poorly adjusted society that is clearly sick. Just look at all the pill poppers, heroin abusers, and mental disease that runs rampant in countries we call civilized. And it should be obvious that the story of how we should live life has been filled with nothing but lies. So let me leave you all with this one final thought. If 100 of us were born on a deserted island and had no knowledge of the systems that existed in the outside world, where billions of us literally are given zero choice about the money we use, the academic systems that process us, and the states that lord over us, do you really think we would create a society that looks like ours? One that is so negative that we constantly talk about abandoning Earth for Mars? Or as a free society with no authority to blindly obey and no confining system to limit our vision, will we produce systems that encourage creation instead of hate, personal responsibility instead of resignation to fate, and critical thought that makes us ponder what is it all for, so we produce harmony and cooperation instead of belligerent war?